Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if it's not your first time here, thanks for coming back. So today, I am going to be filming my most favorite video to film, honestly, every month, which is my monthly palette ranking, or roughly monthly. Basically what I do here is I give you kind of speed reviews in a ranking style of the palettes that I have had a chance to fully test and use a lot this past month or so. I say like 4 to 6 weeks, and I can give you my thoughts on them. I'm going to be ranking these palettes from my least favorite to my most favorite, and of course this is all just based on my own opinions, my own preferences. If we have different preferences, if we disagree, that is totally okay, but it's my video, so it's my ranking, so it's based on my preferences, you know? I'm gonna link all of these palettes down below in the description box. There are a lot of palettes that I've been using recently that are not in this video because I haven't had a chance to fully test them. But I've got 9 here that I got my full thoughts on, so let's just get right to it. I'm gonna start this off by saying none of these palettes are bad palettes. None of them are. I've gotten to a point now where I'm pretty much buying palettes that I know that I'm probably going to like, right? I'm not taking big chances on things. So coming in at number 9, I have the Pacifica Animal Magic eyeshadow palette. So I did receive this in PR. Pacifica sent me a really nice, really big PR package with a whole bunch of stuff. And when I got this in it, I was so excited because I've never tried Pacifica eyeshadows before. I haven't tried a lot of Pacifica products in general. I love this color story, actually. I think there's a lot of variety to it. You've got a lot of neutrals. You've got a couple pops of color. Really nice color story. I'm a neutral girl, so it's like 3/4 neutral, so I'm not complaining about that. Like I said before, this is not a bad palette at all, but it's just not like super in my preference. The mattes are very buildable, a little more on the sheer side. They're not super pigmented, but with that being said, they're very easy to use. Like for a beginner, for a teen, for a preteen just getting into makeup, this is really a good palette for something like that, I would say, or if you just prefer buildable shadows. The shimmers are good, they're nice. There are a couple of different types of shimmers in here, which I so appreciate. You have your more standard shimmer, which is a really nice metallic. I love that you're getting this white metallic for the inner corner. It's really pretty. And then you've got these other ones that look a little more textured, and they're a little more on that foiled, sparkly side. They're really pretty, actually. Again, they're not like indie shadows. They're not extremely impactful, but I think they're really nice shadows, just generally speaking. They're pretty, they're good. I guess the only reason that this is coming in at number 9 is, like I said, with the mattes, they're a little bit sheer for my preference, and I don't really like this packaging. I get that they're trying to make this recyclable, but this plastic part comes in, like you're supposed to be able to take this plastic part in and out and then recycle the cardboard, which is nice, but like it won't like actually fully go back in, so it keeps coming in and out, so it's a little annoying to say the least. And then this is just kind of quite a big palette for me personally. Like I don't gravitate towards a palette this big. And then the other thing is I like the other palettes more, but it's certainly not a bad palette. If this is something that you've been eyeing and you like the things I described in a palette, I don't think you'd be disappointed in this. Coming in at number 8, this was a real shocker to me. And if you saw my Natasha Denona palette ranking recently, I've already kind of explained my thoughts, but I will re-explain them if you missed that video. I will link it down below though. I have the Natasha Denona Biba palette. Now, of course, this is not a new palette, but this is a new palette to me. I did buy this at the very end of last year. It went on super sale and I had a gift card. I think I paid $12 for it, which is a really good price. I've always been curious about this palette. People have always raved about how much they love this palette. I think it's nice. The mattes are spectacular. Spot on, blendable, just pigmented enough. They're neutrals, which I love. I will constantly reach back into this palette for the matte shadows, for sure. As for the shimmers and the cream to powders, the shimmers in this, I don't know, they're just not my preference. They're not really sparkly. They don't give shine. They don't give a whole lot. And they're quite thick, in my opinion. Like, they sit kind of heavy on my lids without giving me shine. Like, I hope that makes sense. They're just kind of powdery, kind of thick, and not my preference for a metallic shadow. And then the cream to powders in this, I had a really hard time working with. The black that's here, I tried to use as an eyeliner. I tried to blend it out. I got a ton of fallout. I even tried to press it onto my lid over an eyeshadow primer, and I got a lot of fallout. And then I tried this one called Tour all over my lid, and I set it with a matte shadow on top, and it looked really bad. By like hour 2, it was almost completely gone from my lid, and what was left on my lid was very creased. So I wasn't really impressed with the performance of the cream to powders or the shimmers, but the mattes are wonderful. But this is a $129 palette. So I know sometimes price shouldn't make a difference, but I think if you're spending $129 on a palette, or at least I'm gonna speak for myself. If I'm spending $129 on a palette, which I didn't, but if I was, I wanna love every shade in the palette. And I just don't love every shade in the palette. Okay, coming in at number 7, I have the Hip Dot and Evanescence palette. I think this is a good palette. Now we're getting into the stuff that like everything from here on out is really good. It's just a matter of like very slight little things that I can pick apart. I love the packaging. I think it's so cool. I bought this one and the corn one. It's very nostalgic. It's an actual CD case. It is in celebration. Oh my God. It is in celebration of the 20th anniversary of this album. So I thought that was really cool. I just like the packaging. But I will say, like CDs, if you've experienced CDs in our past lives, the cases can break, and already like I'm having a hard time shutting it all the way. I have to really like sometimes struggle to open it like a CD case, right? It's all the struggles of a CD case that we all remember. Now inside the palette, I like this palette a lot. I think the quality of the shadows is very good. It does have a pressed glitter, which I won't use, which knocks it down a peg because I don't use pressed glitters, but I knew that going in, that it had a pressed glitter. So I can't really blame the palette for that. But it does kind of give me one less shadow to work with. I think the mattes in this are spectacular. These are some of the best blue mattes I have in my collection. You heard me right. They were so easy to work with. They were pigmented, but not overly pigmented. And I like that there's 2 different blues and a black to deepen it up. The shimmers are really pretty. Particularly these 2 are definitely more my preference, where they're that smooth yet sparkly metallic. This white one is so pretty for the inner corner. This one is so beautiful all over the lid. This one down here, My Immortal, is more of like our standard metallic. It doesn't have any extra sparkle or glimmer to it, but it is very pretty. The only kind of one that I don't love is Taking Over, which is a duochrome from like a blue to a purple-ish. It feels quite dry when I pick it up on my finger, and for some reason, like it made my eyelid look 30, 40, 50 years older than I am. Like it kind of like sucked all the moisture out of my lid and made it look very, very, very wrinkled. Now I'm not 20 years old anymore, so I do have texture on my eyelid, but I feel like this like created more texture that I didn't have before I put it on. So not my favorite. I think it's just dry is kind of what I'm getting at. But I will say for blue eyeshadows, these are very, very good, particularly the mattes and these couple of metallics up here. This is kind of going down the end because they're blue eyeshadows, and I'm hardly ever going to reach for a blue eyeshadow if I'm not like reviewing a palette for you. Just in my everyday life, I'm not really going to reach for a blue eyeshadow palette, but I did buy it because of the theme. I love the theme, so those are my thoughts. Coming in at number 6, I have the other Hip Dot palette, the Corn palette. So I am a huge Corn fan, more of a Corn fan than I am an Evanescence fan, so I had to buy this. Like as soon as I saw this, I was like, yeah, that's it. I need it. My fiance even bought me corn hot sauce for Christmas. I'll put up a picture so you can see. But I really like the actual like insert in this one. They took the cover art of Follow the Leader and they made some of the elements like gold and like every time I talk about this palette, I don't know what it's called, but they've made like the gold parts shiny and metallic. Anyway, same issues I have with the other packaging as I do with Evanescence. Same issue I have with this, that 2 of these are pressed glitters, which I don't love. Everything else I said about the Evanescence in terms of the quality applies here. The mattes are very good. I like this one more because it is more neutral leaning, which I'm gonna reach for this much more. I also like that this has 4 matte shadows and they're all in varying depth, light, mid-tone, deep, and black. I love the shimmer here, this like rose gold brown is so pretty. This duochrome blue to brown, which we see in a lot of palettes, I feel the same way about this as I did about the Duochrome and the Evanescence. It's very dry. It accentuates texture without being chunky. It's a smooth shadow, but it looks very dry on the lids. It's kind of weird. So that's unfortunate because I really like that addition of that color, but I won't really reach for that color very often. I love the theme. I love the color story. I don't love that there's pressed glitters, and I don't love the Duochrome, and so that's why it's coming in at number 6. Coming in at number 5, I have the Natasha Denona Bronze Palette. Yet another palette that is not new. Obviously, this has been around for a really long time, but I did have a gift card. I got one of those $100 gift cards from Sephora because I had so many points. I snatched it up real quick, and I did buy this with that gift card because I've always wanted this palette, and I'm kind of a collector of Natasha Denona, so I wanted to add this to my collection. Like I said, I'm a neutral lover, so I love neutrals, and I love Natasha Denona's quality, so I really enjoy this palette, especially the mattes. They're blendable, they're beautiful, I have no complaints. Kind of the only reason, again, that it's more in the middle is this is a very one-noted palette in my opinion. Whenever I've done looks with this, they generally look the same. And with this many shades, I would have liked a little more variety, but you know what? I knew what I was getting into looking at the palette online, and I've heard that from creators before, but quality of the shadows is very nice. These shimmers are like your standard metallics where they give some shine, they give a little bit of something. They're not overly sparkly, they're not extremely special, but they're very pretty, and it's a really nice neutral palette, so I'm happy I have it. Definitely glad that I picked it up, especially with a gift card. Okay, these next two palettes I put at 4 and 3 are really interchangeable. It really varies on my mood. I don't really have a huge preference one over the other. So, you know, I'm just putting them at 4 and 3. I have two of the palettes from ColourPop's Target collection, if you can believe it. I'm really impressed with these. A lot more than I thought I was going to be. So I have Mauve and Up, which is all mauves. And honestly, every time I've made a look with this palette, both palettes actually, I've been like really in awe and looked at myself and been like, wow, I love the look that I'm wearing today. You're not gonna get something deep, smoky, super depthy, anything like that with this palette. It's pretty mid-tone, light to mid-tone. Even this deepest shade isn't very deep. I say these mattes are pretty powdery. They're not very pigmented, but they're good. They're nice, they're blendable, they're user-friendly. The shimmers, I think there's a couple of different shimmer formulas in here. We have one up here that is definitely more on that shiny, sparkly side. And then we've got more like standard metallics. They're not like super duper special, but honestly, when these are on my eyes, I think they look gorgeous. And I love a mauve color story. Purples, mauves are some of my favorites to wear. So I've really enjoyed this palette. I've been finding myself wanting to reach for these palettes a lot. This one is very pretty. I do own the Child palette, but I actually think I prefer this one over the Child just because I like the looks I get out of this more. I feel like they're a little bit more on the warm olivey side. If I could change something about this palette, I wish that this wasn't here. I wish it was like a super pastel green or like a white. This is just so close to my skin tone. It doesn't really do anything for me, but I think these shimmers are really beautiful. A little bit more sparkly, a little bit more special than the Mauve and Up palette, but I like that you're getting varying tones, and I feel like this palette has a little more variety than this one, but they're monochromatic palettes. I mean, you're not gonna get a whole lot of variety out of them, but actually been really impressed with these. Like I said, a lot more than I thought I was going to be. So the top two palettes are just really good. Really good palettes. Obviously, that's why they're in the top two. So coming in at number 2, I have the Simply Posh Berry Icy palette. This is my first time trying the brand, and I have to tell you, I absolutely love the quality of these shadows. These mattes and metallics are, do I want to say some of my favorite formulas that I've tried? They're up there for me. The mattes in this are really beautiful. They are just that right amount of pigment. They're not over pigmented, but you can build them up. Even the pastels, I can get them to the color that you see in the pan, or I can sheer them out. They're very flexible. They're very user-friendly. The shimmers in this are so incredibly beautiful. And this shimmer formula is that perfect shimmer formula for me where it's a smooth shimmer formula, but it's got sparkle. It's got shifts. A lot of these are duochromes. They have shifts, but they're not thick and chunky. They don't cause a ton of fallout. They're just so beautiful. So, so beautiful. Really enjoyed it. The only kind of reason this isn't number one, like if this blue side was not blue, which again, I know going into it, like I bought the palette myself, I knew it was blue, but I don't reach for blue very often. If this side was like neutrals, purples, greens even, this would have been number one, hands down, because the formula of these shadows, I like better than the formula of number one. So the formula is beautiful. I also kind of wish over here, this part here, looking at it in the pan, these look more on the brown side and these look more on like the peachy pink side. They run very red. Like they pull very red on the eyes, which isn't my favorite color either. But I will say if you like this color story, you would not be disappointed in the formula if you like the things that I described. Beautiful formula. I can't wait to see what else they come out with in the future, because if there's a color story they come out with that's like really calling to me, I know I'm gonna be reaching for the palette over and over again. And then coming in at number one, can I get a drum roll, please? I have the Bella Beauté Bar Star Crossed Lovers palette. This is what I'm wearing on my eyes today. I love it. I love purples, okay? I love purples. I love pinks. So color story wise, this is a wonderful palette. I feel like every time I sit down to use it, I'm never confused. I'm never like avoiding certain shadows. I really feel like I can mix and match everything in this palette. I love that we've got a variety of mattes and we have quite a lot of mattes, which I love. We've got pinks and purples, lights, midtones, and then you've got the shade down here, Montague, which is pretty deep. Like it doesn't look super deep in the pan, but it is quite deep. The matte formula is really nice. It is more on the buildable side, very user-friendly, but really nice. The shimmers in this are stunning. There is a multi-chrome dagger, which is, oh my gosh, so beautiful. I did do a 2 looks video with this palette, which I can link down below. Any corresponding videos I've done with these palettes, I'll link down below. But I did do a look with dagger, and it is just a stunning, smooth, yet shifty multi-chrome. We have a few duochromes. We have a couple of just standard shimmers. I love the shade Poetic. It's a perfect inner corner shadow for me. The one thing that I will say is these duochromes like Vendetta, Ravelry, Star-Crossed, they are quite chunky. So if you don't like that, I don't know that you would love that. They're a little messy, but I use a glitter primer and I do my eyes first, so it's fine. You know, it's not really a major deal for me, but they are a little bit on the chunky, slightly messy side. But overall, I love the color story. I really love the variety of shimmers, that you're getting different textures, also the variety of mattes. And this is my first time trying Bella Beauté Bar, and I've really been enjoying this palette a lot. All right, and that is it for this palette ranking video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below letting me know, have you tried any of these palettes? What are your thoughts on them? I would really love to know. I love hearing from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, both beauty and fashion videos, and I would love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.